Absolute Batman is getting an animated series, and this is huge! This is a big deal. I can't even begin to describe how big of a deal this is. But I'm going to go ahead and try anyway. Today, I got this notification that Absolute Batman is getting an animated series. But first, we need to understand what Absolute Batman is as, like, this conceptual huge thing that American comic books have not seen in decades. This thing just exploded. Scott Snyder talked a little bit about what, like, the philosophy was behind Absolute, and he said that he basically wanted to just take these characters, break them all the way down to their very, very core base elements, and then rebuild everything else. So while the characters are still very recognizable as who they are also altered very significantly, which makes these really, really interesting books to read. He's not like a billionaire in this one. He's working class. He uses his PTO to go fight bad guys as Batman. And this thing was a huge runaway success. The first issue is on its 11th printing now. That is insane. We have not seen that for a very long time. Like, I don't know if we've ever seen it, really. And since it is such a big runaway success, everybody across the entire board, Marvel, DC, Image, Dark Horse, like everybody, writers, artists, publishers, are trying to figure out what was the secret sauce that made Absolute Batman such a big success. In Comics the Magazine, in its first issue, they had a big tell-all interview with the entire team behind Absolute Batman. And the one thing they kept going back to over and over and over in it is that they're really influenced by manga, if not in the look and design of things, then by the execution and the production of it. And if you think about it in that lens, it makes a lot of sense. The entire story of Absolute Batman is contained within the one title. That is very different than how American markets typically do it. That's why I read trades mostly, because it collects the whole thing. But Absolute Batman isn't doing that. It puts the entire story within the one title. You pick up it month by month, and you only have to worry about the one book. It's really, really nice. It's really convenient. That's one element, and then Jim Lee, the chief creative officer at DC Comics and also legendary artist, he redefined X-Men, he redefined Batman, he's drawn really beautiful books. He suggests that the reason why is because it's one creative team. Manga has one creative team throughout the entire run of the series. So far, Absolute has been going on for almost 2 years now, hasn't changed its creative team on any of the books, which is huge. Usually, I feel like things switch around between 6 to 8 months within the book, but outside of the occasional special, like the annual issue, that kind of sits outside of the series a little bit, it's all been the same team. So my next big question with all of this, though, has to do with how are they going to adapt it? Because the way I see it, there are 3 different ways they could do it. The first one is to do something like Caped Crusader or Batman the Animated Series kind of fits into this, where they just take the setting, they take the characters, and they make a wholly original thing with it. It's not the story that you find in the comic books at all, but it is the characters, it is the pieces. You have all the action figures, but you're doing something different with them. So I don't think they're going to go that route, because I think based on the interviews and the way people have talked about this, it's understood that part of what makes Absolute Batman work is the synergy behind it. It's this story exists, we like it, don't overcomplicate the system around the story. The second one that I could potentially see them doing is doing a one-for-one adaptation like we see with a lot of manga and anime, but the problem I've noticed with that is that quite often the anime catches up to the manga, right? Like, a TV show eventually gets to the point where it's covered the entire source material, but it still needs to keep on going, so they start either making filler episodes that don't play into the plot at all, and they're just kind of there, and they're just kind of fluff, it's the filler, or they start taking the show in a completely different direction, and I don't think anyone wants that. Like, you have the show and it like starts in the same direction, but then the show goes that way and the comic book is going that way, and I don't think anybody wants to see that. Again, that complicates the system around the story, and I think what DC should really be considering with this is keeping the system just as simple as this story. The story is great. Make the story deep and complicated and whatever else you want to do, but make it simple to get into the story. And if you do a direct one-to-one adaptation, you're either going to have long breaks between seasons, which I think that would be a mistake as well, or you're going to have to come up with filler to continue the story. Maybe you could take some of the issues of Absolute Catwoman and use those as some of the filler episodes, but then we're starting to lose focus. The third route, and the way that I think they should go, would be an edited adaptation, edited one-to-one. The best example I can think of for this would be most of DC's direct adaptation animated movies, but specifically, let's go with Superman vs. the Elite. It's a great movie based off of a fantastic book. The book is Action Comics 775. Great story. I highly recommend you read it. It's 48 pages long. Problem is, though, they wanted to turn it into a movie. 48 pages does not translate into a full movie. They got the original writer of the story to come back and said, hey, adapt your story, make it longer, make it self-contained, and then we can ship it. And so what you end up with is you end up with a movie that kind of feels like the writer's dream version of Action 775. It's really, really kind of interesting and neat. And if Scott Snyder is like any other writer on the planet, he's probably looking back 2 years ago at Absolute Batman. And while he's probably proud of it, there's probably other things that he wishes he could change, lines he could tweak, details that he could adjust. This would afford Scott Snyder, who is show running the show, an opportunity to go back, rewrite some of Absolute Batman into a more clean version of what he wanted. But then he can also expand it. He can make details more deep. He can add in a couple of extra scenes as you go. Rather than making filler episodes to fill the space between the issues, assuming that one issue equals one episode, he just makes the issue bigger. So now maybe one issue is 2 episodes, or maybe like a longer story arc is a couple issues longer, a couple episodes longer. And we get kind of a definitive director's cut of Absolute Batman that way. And I think that would be way more interesting than one-for-one with maybe filler. Like I said, I read Trigun after having watched the show, and I watched the show and was like, you know what, this is really cool. I like this. I would like to experience more of this, please. Oh, duh, there's like a ton of comic books. Let's go pick up one. And so I picked up the first volume of Trigun. And when I saw that it was a direct adaptation of the episodes, I know that it changes later on. But when I saw that it was a direct one-for-one adaptation of the show, I was really disappointed, because it's like, okay, now I'm just seeing the show, but it's not colored, the actors aren't doing anything, and it doesn't move. I'm reading a worse version of the show. I don't want to just get the same thing twice. You gotta make it so that you're using the strengths of the new medium. Show me the same story, fine, go ahead, but show me the same story in a way that only animation can show it to me. Use the principles of good animation. Use squash and stretch, something that you can't put into a comic book. Show me timing based in time, something that you can't do in a comic book. But at the same time, the book needs to have retained what makes it work within its medium. Comic books don't have squash and stretch, but they show time within space, and that's very interesting. Show me how time works in space in the comic book. Show me how static images can still portray some kind of movement. That's something unique to comic books. You have 2 very different mediums here. You can tell the same story in each one, but the strengths of each medium need to be exemplified in order for both to be considered good. And if you do that, then you're going to give me a reason to want to read the comic book and watch the show separately at the same time, rather than just pick one or the other, which is, I think, the ultimate goal here. You want me entrenched in Absolute Batman. You want me to be buying the book on a regular monthly basis, as well as subscribing to and watching the show. There isn't anything strictly like Batman the Animated Series, but it still encourages people to go check out what's in the comic books, and then you get new stories. You get different stories in the comic book, which gives value to both. If you're going to adapt something so specifically like this, though, you gotta somehow recreate that while also using the same story across both fronts. I'm looking at the announcement here about it, and they mentioned that it is in production. It doesn't have a final release date to it yet, which is fine. That makes a lot of sense. I would imagine, based off of what I know about production schedules, we can expect it in the next year to year and a half, which, you know, that's a fast timeline. Wow, they really got on this quick. But we'll keep an eye out on it. And a lot of things can change very quickly with this, and we're going to get a lot more news the closer it comes to fruition, which is going to be really exciting. I'm excited to see what they have to say about this show. I'm excited to see what Scott Snyder has in plans for this show and for what its adaptation is going to be like. So we'll keep an eye out on it. In the meantime, I would love to hear what you guys think this show is going to be like. Go ahead and put your thoughts in the comments below. And until next time, thank you for joining me. Have a great day, and remember to always be your best self. Subscribe if you would like to see more comic book stuff, because that's what we do on this channel. We talk about comic books. It's a good time. Subscribe if you want to see more.